Hi, all, it's Jan of the Jan Files, and today is April 7th, 2026, the day that President Trump threatened to annihilate Iran, the Iranian people, their civilization, everything. Threatened to annihilate them. In other words, war crime and genocide. What can we do? Well, there's the first option is the 25th Amendment. And the 25th Amendment requires Vance to go saying he believes Donald Trump is not fit and take it to the cabinet. And then, the majority of the cabinet has to vote that he's unfit. And then Trump has the ability to go back with a letter and say, no, I am fit. And then based on that, the cabinet and the vice president can then go to the Congress to ask them to stand by them and say Donald Trump is not fit to serve. That takes 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that even if there are a few brave souls out there, I doubt there are, but even if there are a handful of them, I don't think the Republicans will do that. They have shown not 1 ounce of courage. They have not shown 1 ounce of independence from Trump. They are just going down with the ship. And while that's not going to help us now, it is in the future, hopefully, going to lead to his ultimate impeachment, which is the second way. Now, the second way can happen quickly, too. We don't have to have a long trial. We did in the second impeachment of Trump. We can just say, bang, bang, zoom, zoom, and, this is what he did, and we think he needs to be removed from office for war crimes, for all the things that he's done, and the House has to vote, just a majority vote to move it to the Senate, and the Senate, again, has to have a 2/3 majority. I don't know. Do we have that? I don't think so. But the third thing may influence that. And the third thing is that we rise up. That we absolutely spontaneously rise up, march on Washington, huge marches around the country, and demand he resign or demand that he be impeached. I think if that was big enough, that would push some of those Republican senators, especially the ones who may not be returning. I believe one of those is Don Bacon. It might be Tom Tillis. In terms of Republicans, maybe you could get Lisa Murkowski. Forget Susan Collins. She's probably thinks he learned his lesson. So those are the things, the big things that can happen in this moment, because this is the moment I spoke about a couple days ago, right? I didn't think it was going to happen this soon, but I thought there was an upheaval happening in the month of April, and here we are. And so what can we do? It seems to be always the same answer. In some regards, besides talking to other people to make sure they're informed about what the hell is happening, the other thing we can do is to call and email. And here's something about the calling part, because I'll tell you what I did this morning. I was in a funky mood. I was pissed. And I decided, you know what? Instead of my taking that out on somebody else, why don't I call Senator Thune's office? I thought, you know what? I called and I let him know exactly what I thought of him. Now, I'm not ever talking about threatening. I don't threaten people other than you'll lose the election. But other than that, no. That violence never has a place as far as I'm concerned. But I called and I let him have it. And since it felt so good, I called Schumer And I called Susan Collins. That's a waste of time, but whatever. She came to mind and I called. And I'm going to make more calls after this. But I have to tell you, there was something that felt at least that I could, like, on a teapot when that little thing, the steam happens and that's what it felt like to me. I felt like I needed to get rid of some of this energy. And I know I am not alone. I know that many other Americans are profoundly affected by what is happening and understand. I also know there are a lot of Americans who have no clue what the fuck is happening. But those who do, I know how stressful this is. And I'm going to advocate for calling and, spewing. Okay? Because first of all, I think they need to know. And second of all, I think we need to take care of our mental health. And sometimes that is just by lowering the temperature. And so when you're talking to, when not talking, you're usually leaving a message at this point because nobody wants to answer their phone. It's like, okay, that felt good. Who else can I scream at? And I know this sounds absurd, okay? Like we're left in this position. But unless somebody else has got something else that they think we can do, then this is what I got, folks. Because first of all, we have to stay sane. We have to stay sane. And we have to make sure that we're constantly calling out the Republicans, but also the Democrats. If I were in charge, I would call, in the House, if I was Hakeem, I'd call everybody back. If I was the Senate, the minority leader in the Senate, like Schumer, I'd call all Democrats back. They need, in my opinion, they need to get out and have their own kinds of demonstrations at the foot of the Capitol and invite Americans to join them. That's what I think they should do. Because we can't just see, emails or Twitter tweets or whatever you want to post of any kind, and that's not enough. It's not enough. And the politicians now need to step outside of the box that they build for themselves, of the do-nothings. This is not, it calls for extraordinary measures, peaceful measures, but it calls for extraordinary measures. And I don't see it. I don't see that happening too. So in some way, I think, folks, we are on our own. And somebody surprised me. I would love to be wrong. But, like I said, maybe John Thune will talk to other senators and say, okay, this is a bridge too far. This is a bridge too far. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But anyway, so given the day, given what's in front of us, that's what I'm thinking about. But I also have two other things I want to talk about. First of all, I have a huge mea culpa, a huge apology, a huge realization that I have failed in some ways, in some of the ways that I've asked you to start, paying attention, make sure people know. And so why I say that is because I too, for too long, was not paying attention to Gaza and the Palestinian horrors. And I really didn't understand the depth of Israel's depravity. And now I do. Now I do. I understand that the state has no regard for anyone's life, not children, not mothers, not grandmothers, not grandfathers, no one. They have no regard for anyone's life. When I see somebody actually celebrating with champagne that they're going to start killing Palestinians, that Palestinians will now have the death penalty and it'll have to be happen within 90 days and it's only for Palestinians. So I now am making it my business to understand more, to do more homework. And, please, this is not about the Jewish people. This has got nothing to do with that. This is about the Israeli government and the Israelis that support it. Because they are horrifying. And the more I learn, the more I am horrified. And I have to, though, sit and admit I wasn't paying attention. Now I am. And so I'm just saying, sometimes we have to look at ourselves to understand what we are doing to contribute what is happening that's not good in the world. And by my not paying attention, by my not taking it in and speaking about it more, I have made that contribution, that negative contribution. So I'm calling myself out because I needed to. So I hope those who have had this kind of thing like I did, that, Israel, is Israel and the Holocaust and the horror of the Holocaust and the horror of the Hamas attack, and none of that changes anything as far as I'm concerned in terms of what I think. Those are and were horrific things. And, but the Israeli government, no better. Honestly, no better. Right now, what they are doing to the Palestinians is horrendous. And what now they are doing, they're trying to expand into Lebanon. And they're going to. They want more land. They're just like Russia. They just want to have more land around them, like a bumper zone or something. And they were able to convince Donald Trump to put American lives in harm's way, as well as billions and billions and billions of dollars. And what was the first thing we did? We deliberately hit 160-something school children and killed them. The very first thing we did on the very first fucking day. And we should never forget that. Never. But anyway, I had to say that. I had to say mea culpa because I need to do better too. And there was a third thing. Oh God, the brain just goes when you get older. I don't know. Maybe I'll think of it and add it to this. I just know that there's so many things that are horrible happening that we can't lose sight of. It's hard to not to, just focus on, war crimes and genocide, right? But what's going on with ICE? What's going on with girls that have been raped and are pregnant and in ICE custody? The horrors are untold. And we're not paying attention enough to that. And of course, there's the Epstein files, which I think soon they're supposed to get the information, if not today or tomorrow, from the private investigators in the Epstein case. Pam Bondi is supposed to testify next week. Looks like James Comer is trying to get out of that. But folks, there's a lot to focus on. And we have to take care of ourselves. We are now in big crisis mode. And I know it felt like it before, and it's probably going to feel like that for a while until we have more power. But we need to do what we can do, and we need to stay strong. And that means letting that little thing at the top of your head open and have some steam come out. So however you do that, I highly recommend yelling at people or on the phone, because it's not people, it's a recording. Again, No threats, nothing like that, but letting him have it. I was just like screaming, what is this that you put power and party before the American people? And that's what you're doing. And I was pretty much at the top of my lungs, and trust me, that's loud. Anyway, I don't know what tonight will bring. Also, we have, that race in Georgia for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. That's really incredibly important. So if you're in Georgia, people live in Georgia, make sure people get out and vote. That's all, folks. Take care.